Another way that we can build our characters and rig them for animation is through the use of simple deformers. So in this video we're going to take a look at the most basic way of using a deformer to control the animation of our character. Later videos we'll look at some more complex ways and other ways that we can do these deformers inside of Harmony Premium. So right now I have my artwork all separated out onto individual layers. So things are ready to go. And the first thing I'm going to do, now I could rig this up inside my node view. I'm just going to do it in the layer view because working with simple deformers and adding in kinetic outputs and doing all of that I find can sometimes be a little bit easier to get started inside the layers in the timeline, and then we organize things a little bit more inside the node view. So it's a good practice. We always add in all of our pegs so we can control our character. Now as I do this, I'm not going to put in my master peg just yet. I'll do that inside the node view later after I get things configured. So with my layers set, as always, what we want to do, and this is just a good practice and it will set things up so that it will work a little bit better for us down the road, is to get all of our pivot points organized before we start doing anything. Now sometimes you can do steps in different orders, sometimes you can skip steps, and I put the arm peg at the hand. We want the arm peg to be over here, and now the left hand peg to be over here, and then the left arm peg to be around in the shoulder. So let's just click on the pegs and make sure I did them all where they're supposed to be. Alright, so pegs are now configured. What I'm going to do is build my deformers in two different manners. So I'm going to click on the right arm layer, and now I have my rigging tool set up here, and I can click on the rigging tool, and this allows me now to start constructing my deformer. Now this basic deformer, when we put it in, I establish my starting point, and then I'm going to click again for where my elbow would be on my arm, and then I will put another click at the wrist. Now if we zoom in here, we'll see that the origin point for this deformer has a little circle around it, and then any intermediate points have a circle that represents their area of influence, and this can be adjusted bigger or smaller as we work with it. And what that allows me to do is, if I click the transform tool to do animation, now when I move this arm we can see it's moving like a rubber hose. Now we can see the radius of that curvature is matching the radius of that area of influence. Now if I make this bigger, and now when I move it, we can see it's a much gentler curve. We make it much smaller, we move it, now it's almost a hinged joint. Now we have to be careful because we can see that if we go too far and it's too tight, we get some awkward overlap. So those are things we have to watch out for as we do it. Now you'll notice I clicked on this button right here, and this allows me to kind of reset. Oh wait, wrong button. That's not the button I wanted to click on, my bad. This is the one I wanted to click on. This is the reset current frame. This turns on and off my deformers, which if you have a lot of deformers and are doing complex things, sometimes you'll need to turn them back off so you can see your artwork. This allows me to reset what I've done, so that if I move it to here, if I reset, it goes back to the original starting position that was configured for this deformer. Now I'm going to add a deformer to the left arm, so I'll click on the left arm. Notice I'm not clicking on the peg, I am clicking on the artwork layer. And now with the left arm artwork selected, we'll just move this over, click the starting point for the shoulder, click for the elbow, click for the wrist, and I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger so it's a curvy arm. Now this area of influence is animatable, so from keyframe to keyframe you can adjust it to depend on the type of curve that you want to create. Now this is going well, but the hand isn't going to be moving at the end of this chain. So if I want the hand to move at the end of this chain, so what I'm going to do on the left arm here is I can now just take the left hand and I can just simply drag that onto the deformation chain. It adds it down here. Grab my animation tool, and now if I go and move this, we can see that the hand moves, but I can't do anything to the hand, one, and certain kinds of movements, especially like if I stretch it out, we can see we're starting to stretch and deform it at the wrist. So this isn't our ideal way of anchoring something there. So let me just undo until it's no longer part of it. What works better is to add what is called a kinematic output. So I have the peg for the hand selected. I choose kinematic output, and it now adds that output. And I'm going to name this LH for left hand. Now, I'm going to need one for the right hand as well. So I'll click on the layer, click plus, kinematic output, and now let's just rename that RH. And I'll just collapse things a little bit just so we have a little more space to look at what's happening. I'll drag this onto the deformation chain and drag the left one onto the deformation chain as well. So now when I work with this, I can animate the hand, but I can also animate the arm, and the hand doesn't distort when we move it, so that works out really well. So we have a good start to using the deformers. We're going to add a little bit more in the node view, and then we'll go back and see how we can actually animate with this. So jumping into the node view, we'll just full screen it. So Command or Control F twice brings it into full screen. I'll click on display and I will just organize up. That spreads everything out so we can see we have a nice looking setup. I'll just pull these down so they're out of the way. And we can add in a peg using Command P or Control P, or I can right click and add it, or we can pull up our node library and add it as well. And with this, I'm just going to name this my master peg. So there's my master P, and that's set up there. So we know that the left arm will be attached to it, the right arm is attached to it, the body will be attached to it, and the head. And with all of that done, you can even right click now, choose group with composite, and then we just have to rename it. This is going to be my deform character group. So the -G, and we are in good shape. One more Command or Control F to get out of full screen, and now we are back in business. So now I can click on the different parts as I am trying to work with them or animate them. So we're going to be able to get going here. So just add a keyframe for frame 1, click out in the timeline, function key F5 to extend our exposure. So now I have my opening keyframe here, and if I go to this next frame, I can add in a keyframe and now simply move this arm up. So we can see we get there. And now if I move into the next frame here, before I move it, I'm going to just make the area of influence a little bit bigger. And then I will move that up there. And we'll just do a little head tilt. And once the body is here, add in a full keyframe for everything, and then move the hand, go over a frame, move the hand some more, go over a frame, move the hand some more. So we're just getting a little motion going on, so it's shaking it. And now at this point, if I click and add a new keyframe here, if I click on a point on my deformation chain, let's go and notice how we can really extend things out, but if we hit the reset, it resets everything. If I click right here, with it, so I'm trying to get so it recognizes that the deform is what's select, not the peg for that arm. And now we can reset it. So anytime you find that you use the deformers, and if you notice how we can really extend things out, which now if I make that really big, so you can see how we have a rubbery arm, and I just want the hand to rotate here down as part of that movement. Now what we can simply do between keyframes, we can put a little bit to increase some exposure on them. So shift equals, or the plus key if you're using, if you have a numeric keypad, you can do that. And don't want to move that over, I just want to extend this one out more, so I want it to grow slowly. So by expanding all those exposures, we can now see how quickly we can animate through the use of deformers. So it's a pretty exciting way that you can work with your characters. It's very different than the standard cutout, and it's usually going to be a matter of you might use a deformer on certain parts of your character, unless you're doing a rubber hose character for arms and legs. But using deformers for hair, tail, on animals, clothing, these are all things that we can use that make it work a little bit easier. Good luck and have fun.